Aloha, welcome back to Aina Bear Farm. Today we're going to do an update video on our kitchen slash market garden. So, if you have been following our channel for a little while, seen a lot of our videos, most of what our content focuses on the food forest and converting our roughly 3-acre pasture to food forest. But out in the front, we've got a decent size kitchen market garden where we intend to grow a lot of our own just personal annual vegetables, a few perennials, and then a few things to sell at the market in addition to the fruit that we intend to sell from our food forest. So, also if you've watched past videos, you've known that this area has created a lot of headaches for me. Everything from terrible slug infestation to pigs busting through the fence and destroying everything, poor soil, you name it, we've had that problem here. But things are really starting to improve. We're finally kind of building our base here, getting some diversity going. And so let's have a walk around and see how it's looking. First, just want to show this monster passion fruit lily koi vine that we've got growing on this outer fence here. Lots of fruit coming in, as you can see. There's like 1, 2, 3 right in that little cluster there. And a little easier to see when they start to turn yellow. But this vine is running, this is one vine running all the way around the upper side of the garden and then all the way down to the main garden gate. So should get a lot of fruit on that this year. You can see all the flowers not really open right now. This isn't the time of day where they're usually open, but very pretty flowers, and they smell great as well. One of the things we wanted to get in here was one of these African blue basils. I've done a whole video on this plant. It's a wonderful plant because it stays in bloom constantly, attracts bees, other beneficial insects. So one of this in here is just kind of a mainstay to bring those good bugs in and add some diversity to the ecosystem that we've got going on. I'll head up to the top corner here on the inside. The green onions do very well. These just need to be divided, sold, used, so on and so forth. This upper row is just about empty at this point. We've got this plant. This is a ahi dulce sweet pepper. Really cool plant. Came from the Green Garden guy here on the Big Island. More or less perennial sweet pepper plant. The sweet peppers are small, but very tasty, and this thing will go for 5 or more years. It's kind of turn into a shrub and produce sweet peppers. We've still got a couple jack beans out here that we planted here for just harvesting the beans so that we have plenty to spread. And then we've got some of this halekoa or white lead tree leucaena. And it's a nitrogen fixer. We leave them a little bit unkempt in here just to give us a little bit of overstory as well as some root work producing some nitrogen down there. Wintertime we get a ton of nasturtiums. They're beautiful. Can be a little weedy, but it's a weed that I appreciate. And this is actually like a second flush that we got due to just the way the seeds fell and the rain came in. One of the things in general to talk about in the garden is that we finally have every single one of our rows has a nice layer of biochar underneath it. And so on this end what we've got is double rows, and then as those go down they join into a single row going off to the other side. And that was one of the ways that we stayed on contour, but it also kind of gave me a neat idea to have this left side of the garden as mostly annual vegetables and the right side as mostly perennial vegetables. The perennials kind of being easier to keep in that one contained space. So there's not going to be any like disturbance. And then the annual is a little bit easier to manage in these more like single rows. And so on that account, you can see we've got asparagus growing here. This is their kind of second/third year, so probably could have harvested a lot of these this year, but we just kind of let them go one more year, build up some roots, get strong. We'll plan on starting to harvest off of those next year, and then I would like to expand. We do have like 11 or 12 plants here, which is pretty decent for like one small family, but I do want to expand because we've got the space, and we love asparagus. Asparagus also fetches a good price at the market. It's pretty popular. This is a row of white pineapples, which you may have seen in other videos. We also have a huge row of white pineapples, mostly just for selling out in the food forest. But these are more for our consumption. I mean, I don't really care where we pick them from, but just, I guess, extra, put it that way. The next row down, we've got a mixture of cassava, a couple different types of, there's one type, and you get that purple, and yacon. I've got another yacon and another cassava I need to get in the ground out here. Papaya, just a single papaya in the middle, doing pretty well. As we go down, this is sorrel roselle. And so we make the really nice roselle tea out of these in the late fall. Got like 7 of those plants. Next row down is more of an annual, but they're a very long-lasting annual here for us. This is eggplant. These are the ping tongue variety, the kind of long, skinny ones. And you'll notice growing around, basically naturalized here, is all this stuff is a really nice cultivar of sun hemp that works great as a cover crop. We do have milkweed in here, which is a little bit of a nuisance because it attracts the monarch caterpillars, which are great. We love monarchs, but they tend to eat a lot of the other vegetables as well, which can be pretty annoying. These sun hemp are nitrogen fixers. We kind of let them go and just come in every once in a while and sort of remove them from being too close to our other plants, and then that's just chop and drop. There's also some pigeon pea in here. You can kind of see one growing right here. We just let that go as well for now. Down here at the bottom, we've got, this is Okinawan spinach. It's a perennial sort of ground cover type spinach, and we have it in here mostly as just propagation material. So it's just kind of a nice open space for us, because this stuff you can cut it off and stick it in the ground. So we got one plant, and we intend to just propagate a whole bunch off of this one to create ground covers, mostly in our food forest. A little plumeria down here, just to bring in some flowers, beneficial insects. Seems that ladybugs really like the plumeria. All of the kalo in here, or taro, is actually just left over from a previous harvest. These are little chunks that kind of found their way back into the soil. And so for now, we don't really have anything else going on here. Just kind of letting them go. So you can see we've got a smaller fence here on the inside. This is the red tea leaf on the outside, and then past that is the Tithonia, the Mexican sunflower, and that goes all the way around. These ones are a little smaller, but that's our windbreak. And you can see the coconuts out there, add a little bit of extra windbreak, cycad palms out there, but the wind comes from right down there. There's the ocean back there. The wind can come through here full force. So we really need to slow that wind down. That windbreak is growing in really nicely now. And then right now we have an external fence right outside the Tithonia that was to keep the pigs from digging at the Tithonia when it was growing. They're pretty much established now. We're ready to take that fence down and then actually fence the rest of the front yard so that the dog can roam up here. I've got these cherry tomatoes. Slicing tomatoes are pretty difficult to grow, I think really all over Hawaii due to some pest issues and due to just the way moisture sits on the plants constantly. So most of the slicing tomatoes are grown in greenhouses. There's also a couple different varieties that people grow that, in my opinion, really aren't that great. So we kind of stick to cherry tomatoes. They're very easy. They're prolific. Got a pretty simple bamboo trellis situation going on here. Maybe not the prettiest thing, but it works really well. And in another few weeks, you won't even really see it. It'll be so covered with these tomato vines. We do a single trunk. So we pinch off at the nodes. I don't know if you're not familiar with that. This is not actually a growth stem, but that's where they come out of, and you just kind of come in and pick them off. And that way you only get a single trunk. It tends to produce fruit faster, healthier fruit, bigger fruit, as opposed to just letting the plant like go wild all over the place. But eventually we kind of lose track of pinching those off, and then they end up going wild. Some cranberry hibiscus, and this is an edible hibiscus. It's got a very kind of lemony type of flavor, a little bit like garden sorrel if you've ever eaten that before. It's pretty tasty. It's a nice thing to add to salads, just kind of give it a little bit of zing, a little extra flavor. And then we're going to come back and plant in between these with some green beans. Speaking of which, that row was green beans that we've harvested off, and now we're just letting them go to seed, so to speak, so that we can collect the seeds. And then basically we're just moving downhill. So we did 2 rows of green beans, let's collect the seeds. Hopefully we'll get enough seeds that we won't have to do this again this year, and then keep moving down, green beans, and harvest. And then eventually we'll probably go back up to the top, because green beans are something we can grow pretty much year round. They're a pretty dependable crop. We like them, we can sell them. The next 2 rows are okra. So we've got an older row of okra there at the top, it's starting to produce. And then a younger row, like you can see the little plants hiding here. And so we usually plant 4 seeds and then choose the strongest one. That's emotionally a very tough thing to do sometimes. We've got sweet potato vine running crazy. A couple different varieties. Love sweet potatoes, but these vines get really pesty with a stink bug type of bug. And I see one now. I can catch him before he runs away. These guys right here, we're talking like in the hundreds all over, eating the leaves. They pretty much decimate. Here's another one, the leaf part of the plant, and then that of course stunts the growth of the tubers and kind of ruins the crop. So we're still trying to figure that one out. I've tried manual removal, but they just keep coming back. They lay eggs on everything. We don't get them in the food forest, interestingly enough. So there's some kind of diversity thing happening out in the food forest that is really keeping them at bay out there. So maybe we'll get to that point here. We'll keep trying. I mean, sweet potatoes otherwise grow like a weed here, as you can see. And the other thing that we may end up trying, the other thing I wanted to mention was that even though we don't get these stink bugs out in the food forest, what we do get are mongoose. I don't know if it's mongoose or rats or mice or all 3, but something actually digs into the ground and eats the sweet potatoes a lot of times before we get it. And so we've actually had a tough time getting sweet potato crops, but I know that will get better. We have some turmeric popping up. This is actually pretty random. I don't even know how that got there. If you've seen some of my other videos, I sort of throw turmeric all over the place, and then it just surprises me where it comes. And then this is Sesbania. It's a nitrogen fixing tree, really fast growing. We've been throwing some seeds in and here. That's just to create a little bit of dappled shade, because this garden gets really blasted with sun in the summer, and tropical sun in the summer is just punishing on people and plants. So Little dappled shade, can't hurt. So we've got, I don't know, 5 of those in that little row there, and we'll plant in between them. Pigeon pea hanging out here and there, some basil, it's kind of past its prime. Right, that's about it for today. We'll keep you updated. Maybe later in the season we'll do a follow-up video just to kind of see these plants as they mature and they're starting to fruit. And let me know in the comments section if you have any questions about productivity levels, anything else about gardening in Hawaii, gardening Big Island. This has been a long process, kind of rounding the corner on year 3 now, and really just now starting to see some better results from the methods that we've been using. But it's kind of how we roll here, slow farming, but good results. So we appreciate you watching, and we'll see you back here next time at Aina Bear Farm. Aloha.